if you think about if a developer is coming with the design document as your um, work product, again, here the business person, other developers on the team, the QA, architect, the project manager, and they are all going to be part of the team and reviewing at the design document to ensure that they are getting all the clarifications they need. So when you think about code review, when the developer is completed with the coding, this is going to be reviewed by the peer developers, and then the QA can be part of the team also, where it is going to be very technical in nature, but at the same time, even though we are looking at a static piece of code, you can look for the data flow. You can look for the control flow. You can look for some obvious things that you can, because coding is again like in English, so you can look at conditions. You can ask for boundary conditions. Is it satisfying the boundary conditions? You can look for anything that is supposed to display, if that has been formatted according to the user requirement, so on and so forth. So again, when a testers work products are being delivered, if it's a test plan or test strategy, test cases, again, you could have your peers, or you could work with the project team, or a combination, so where they can provide input. So at the end of the day, the goal of static testing is to make sure that we are catching all the errors, or not all the errors. So the goal is to be able to provide review early. We want to be able to review early. So we want to be able to reduce rework. So you don't want to go back to the drawing board when you are well into your testing. If your testing strategy is lacking, you want to know about it ahead of time. And why is that important? For example, if the design is flawed, and if the design is forgetting an important component, so let us say the design and there was no review process. If the design is missing something, then what happens? So you are well into coding, you have to go back to the drawing board, and that's going to increase cost, and then it is going to increase the time it takes to complete the product, which is going to be a decreased profit for the business. So depending on like where you find the problem, you can address it really easily. But if you are going to delay finding issues or getting feedback, that is going to be expensive. For example, we could be approaching the design in a certain way, and then when we present it to an architecture team, they may come back and say, oh no, that approach is not going to work, because 4 months down the line we are going to convert to the new platform. So when that new piece of information comes through, we have to make sure that we change our strategy, right? That would be a very expensive mistake to make by an architect. So these are some of the ideas. So when you're in a project team, your project team and your peers are going to be the support system that you have, that are going to be helping you in identifying any roadblocks. You want to be able to find any roadblocks way up front so you can plan for it. You want to be able to think about all the scenarios. One person cannot do it, but when you have like multiple people with different skill sets come into a room and look at a piece of code or any work product, they are going to have some ideas that are going to be beneficial overall to the successful delivery of the project. So our goal is to reduce cost, reduce rework, keep to the timeline, and deliver the product in an efficient manner. So in order to do that, the static testing is going to play a very important role. So, you can, when you look at the chapter and the presentation, the PowerPoint from, the 1200 class that we had before, you can look at the individual details of why static testing is important, and how it can be implemented. But here in this particular class, what we're going to focus on is like, how do we do static testing? Okay, it is all good to know that we have to do the testing, but how do we do it? Okay, so depending on who is going to review what product, they are going to be initiating a meeting. So usually these will be done with meetings. Either they'll be like giving hard copies, and nowadays because everything is online, they could be sharing their screen. So the person, the owner of that particular work product is going to initiate a meeting. Either it's virtual or in person, and they are going to be sharing their screen or providing hard copies for everyone else. So in this case, the owner is going to be business analyst. If you have user requirement specification review meeting. Okay, if it's a developer, they are going to be having a design review meeting. A developer can also have a code review meeting. The participants are going to vary. Design review meeting usually has the project team. Code review meeting has peer developers and a portion of the project team. The quality assurance analyst, if they are going to have testing strategy, test cases, test plans, is going to be a combination of the project team, and it is going to also be other QAs from that particular department. An architecture review is going to be a review of the architecture of that particular product or that project, and it's going to have other architects, developers, and a portion of the project team sitting in there to look at that work product. So these are usually going to be meetings. They are called as review meetings, and they will be scheduled or initiated by the owner of that particular product. Okay, so let us say as a QA, you are invited to a review meeting, a user requirement specification meeting, and you go in there and you're sitting there. So how are we going to go ahead and do it? So let's look at that. So here's a sample requirement I have. So the way I'm going to be doing it is I'm going to assume the role of a business analyst. I'm going to be explaining what is the goal of that particular requirement. So let us say that we have a little program that we are in the process of creating, and the goal of that program is to calculate commission based on sales amount. It is for a salesperson. So let us look at this requirement. This is what is being presented for review. Let us say that. So I'm the business analyst. I'm presenting this to my team. I'm saying user requirement for commission calculation program is given below. The program should get a salesperson's name as input. The program should get sales amount as input. Calculate the commission. There's a formula given. Based on the sales amount, determine the performance status as shown below. Different ranges give different performances, and then display the following: salesperson name, sales amount, commission, performance status. So this is the particular requirement, user requirement, that is being presented for review to the team, the project team. So the business analyst could be presenting something like this. So different, like you could have a story card, you could have a specific requirement specification document that has like version number. There are so many different templates in which you could have the documents, and I can post a couple so you can take a look. So the question is this review is being done. So the author, let us see, the author will be the business analyst. So the review team will be developer, QA, project manager, lead, some kind of architect, business personnel. So this is the person that sponsored the project. So these could all be part of the review team. So now everybody will assume a different role. For example, the business person is going to see, hey, is my goal satisfied? Yeah, I want to create a program. I'm sponsoring for that program. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is supposed to take the salesperson's information, sales amount, calculate commission, and depending on the different commission levels, it is going to say what kind of performance the person has. And we have to display all this information in the bottom. So they may be happy with this requirement because to them, it meets their requirement. It's like overall, right? In their mind, they want this program to be able to calculate commission. They are going to be focused mostly on, hey, is my range correct? Am I getting the right range here? They are going to be very high level in their input. So they may sign off and say, excellent. Now let's look at the developer. We could even look at the QA perspective. As a QA, what are you going to do? The project manager is going to think about, oh, okay, the story card is done, so we can move on to the next story card. And then they may ask some questions, but it's also going to be very high level. So the business personnel and the project manager are going to think about it at a higher level. The developer and the QA are going to focus on it at the lower level. And they are going to be asking clarifying questions. These could come from either the developer or QA. So I'm going to pretend I am the QA right now, and I'm going to examine each and every statement. The program should get salesperson's name as input. So I'm going to be thinking, okay, the program is going to get, how is it going to ask for that information? Because that information is missing here. Okay, so I'm going to be how is it going to be asking for that input? What would it look like? So would it say enter salesperson's name, or would the program say give me the salesperson's name? Is it going to say hello, can you please enter your name? How is it going to ask that question? Program should get sales amount as input. Here, what should it say? Should it say, please enter your sales amount for this month? Or should it say, enter dollar amount? What should it say? Okay, so that's going to be what's going to be going on in the QA's mind. The next thing is sales amount. Can sales amount have decimal values? Can it have decimal? Or should it be whole number? Okay, what if they enter a negative number? What happens then? How should the program react? What if they enter 0? Is that valid? Is there a minimum sales amount they have to enter? Minimum sales is 1,000. Do we have to think about it? So all these questions should be going through the QA's mind. The quality assurance person, the tester on that team should be thinking about all these things. Okay, next statement. Calculate the commission as shown below. Commission equal to 200 plus, okay. So because there's a 0.09, I am assuming commission should be decimal. I'm going to clarify that. Should the commission be decimal? Okay, so if they say it's decimal, how many digits should be corrected to? Should it be a 2-digit? So should it be 100.99, or should it be 100.93456 like that? What kind of formatting do we want to do for the commission? Okay, next statement. So sales amount between 0 and 2,999, performance is poor. Sales amount between 3,000, 4,999, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So what if the sales amount is negative? How should the performance be reported? Okay, so that is another valid question. Then let's think about the display statement here. It says display the following. What does that mean? How should it look? Should it say the given salesperson's name is, or should it have a reporting format? Should it be a nice table? What is the expectation? How does the business want it? What will be the great user experience for them to be able to do it? Okay, so these are some of the questions that will come. Do we want to display a table like this? Say name, and then sales amount, commission, and then performance status. It should be like this with a title here. Or do we want to say the salesperson's name is something, he earned something? Should there be a dollar before commission? His sales amount was dollar something. he performed during this year, something like that. So do we want it this way or that way? So there are so many questions. How should it look? Why is this important? This is important because anytime you are like creating a product or there are always like going to be legal implications. Okay, a person that is coding should understand what is expected out of him or her. They can put whatever they want, but if there is a legal understanding of how the terms should be, what data can be accepted, what is the boundary value, is negative value accepted or not, can a value below 1000 be accepted or not, can you enter like 2 million as sales amount, is that acceptable, is there a higher limit? So all of these are valid questions. So let us think about our observation. Okay, let us think about our observation. So some of the observations we made for this particular user requirement is, first one is how should the input questions be formatted? So should it say enter sales person name like this? Should it say hi, give me your name? Or should it just say name? How should it be? This is not just for name, so this is going to apply for name, sales amount, because those are the two inputs. So this is going to apply for name and sales amount. Okay, so this is going like mostly like cosmetic, right? How should we display it? How should it look like? Second thing is going to be sales amount and commission. Can it take negative value? So if it should not take a negative value, what is going to, if they enter a negative value, what should happen? Can it take a negative value? Is there a minimum? What is the minimum? What is the maximum? What is the maximum? So there could be something like, nobody does sale more than 1 million. Maybe they cap it because they don't want to give that much commission. They could be capping it, saying like the minimum commission, the minimum, sales amount, at least they have to make 1,000. It could be like that. When you ask the question, that is when you find out. Or they may say, nope, there is no minimum. They can bring in $1 and that is okay. Okay, what is the maximum? So there may not be a maximum for commission, the sales amount, but there may be a maximum for commission, right? They may want to cap the commission. If the commission is more than $50,000, they may want to cap it and say anything you make more is not going to be paid out, and that's the maximum. So, we need to ask these questions like, what happens? Sometimes these are not obvious till we have a review meeting, and in the review meeting, people start thinking. They may go back to the drawing board and think a little bit more about it, get some clarifications. So it is the job of everyone in the team to make sure that they are addressing all of these. So let me do one by one. So let's say sales amount. Is there a minimum amount? Is there a maximum sales they can make? Okay, so that like that. So third is commission. Again, negative allowed. Can you have a negative commission? Can you lose commission if you do less than a certain amount? it's just questions that you can throw. Minimum commission, max commission. Like for example, somebody like makes really poorly. So do we like pay them no matter what, $100? Um, if their value is less than 100, if their commission is less than 100, do we round it and give them 100, or do we just pay the actuals? So then there could be a question of maximum commission. Like if we want to cap the commission, if it's more than $20,000 a month, maybe we should cap it. So these are questions we have to ask. Okay. So what am I doing? I'm just collecting my thoughts. So number one observation was that how should the input questions be formatted? Second question is, can sales amount take negative value? Is there a minimum sales amount that we should request? And then is there a maximum amount? If there is minimum and maximum, how do we handle it? What to do. If there is a minimum maximum, what is the process? Action. Like, should we throw an error saying, hey, enter a value more than 1,000? Or should we just do something else? Should we just like stop the program and say, hey, you are ineligible? Or something like that? So these are questions we have to ask. Let's go back to our okay, that. Here. So let's go back to our question. Yeah, so we have to ask about the display. How do we want to display the values? Fourth is going to be what format for display. Displaying all this information, right? Fifth is going to be sales and commission. Can it take decimal value? Should we round it to the nearest 2-digit, or should we want like a precision of 4 digits? Should we have like a dollar sign before it when we display it? All this depending on the currency, like what do we want? Do we have to like know which country this is from, or do we assume it's dollar all the time? So these are all valid questions to ask. Okay, so I just showed you at this point how we look at, where is this? How we look at a requirement document and how we kind of come up with all these questions during a review process. So this particular one is called as a user requirement review. So the author is a business analyst. The business analyst is going to be the liaison between the business folks, and then it's going between the IT project team. So they are the liaison. They own the user requirements. So they are going to be converting anything the business tells them into proper story cards or requirement documents that is going to be used going forward by the development team. Just remember, if something is not in the requirement document, after the requirement is approved, it has to go through a change process. Like whatever is in your requirement document is set in stone. If you want to change it, there is going to be an estimation process. So let me just talk about it a little bit. Let us say we have a requirement to manufacture this particular basket. So they write a requirement for manufacturing this basket. So this requirement is going to say what material, color, dimension. Okay. So based upon the material, color and dimension, we are going to be providing estimate to make the basket. Let us say we are going to be making only one basket. Okay. So the requirement document, let me make this a little better. So the requirement document will define, the business analyst will talk with the business people and come up with, what type of material, what color, what dimensions that you want, and then they'll come up with, and then the development team is going to be giving all the estimates. So this is going to be the development team will give estimate, design, and then they will develop, and then the QA will test for the sturdiness, and then it will be delivered, right? So this is the process. Let us say once the requirement has been approved, you've decided the material is going to be nylon, the color is going to be blue, the dimension is going to be 8-inch radius, it's going to be 6-inch height, it's going to have 2-inch handle, whatever it is. You've decided on all this. Okay, it's approved, and then you move on. Okay, you provide the estimate, then you start everything. And then let us say when you are here in this phase, somebody changes their mind. Either the business changes their mind or whatever happens, and they're saying, oh no, I want the color to be 3 colors. So they want to change the color to be red, white, blue. Instead of 1 color, they want it to be 3 colors now. This is a big change because we assumed it's going to be blue, but now they want it as red, white, and blue. Okay, so if we are going to just directly say okay, and the developer is going to continue, it is going to increase estimate, increase time, right? The developer's estimate will change, and then there will be other costs associated with it. If this was already tested, the QA has to repeat their testing, so on and so forth. Anytime anything changes the estimate, your effort changes or time changes, effort and time, if it increases, it has to go through a change approval process. Change approval, where somebody is going to look at the new estimate, whatever is the new estimate, the increase in time and increase in effort, they are going to be looking at it. Oh, it's going to take 2 more days. It's going to need 3 people to work on it, and then a lot of people have to sign off on this, and then it has to be used to update this requirement. Only when the requirement is updated can it move on to be approved, and only then the developer, the QA will work on it. Okay, so there is a process, checks and balances everywhere. So directly this cannot happen. We cannot have the developer directly do it. It has to be initiated. So that it has to be initiated by whoever wants that change, go through an approval process, and then the requirement document has to be re-updated, and then the color will be modified to red, white, blue. Okay, with the new revised estimate, instead of it being delivered on day 4, it is now going to take 8 more days, for example. So that has to be understood by everyone who is proposing the change, and they should be okay with it. So this is called as a change approval process. It has got nothing to do with the QA directly, but at the same time, the QA has to watch out for discrepancy between the requirement documentation and the expectations. You have to make sure you test to the requirements that are approved. You cannot test to an unapproved word of mouth instruction from anybody, including the business. So that is really, really important to remember. There has to be a process, whatever is the process that is done by the company. It could be an informal process or a formal process, but finally, the user requirement document becomes the input for a QA. Okay, all of your testing has to be based upon what is written in the user requirement. So that is absolutely important for you to do that, because then when there is a question about why something doesn't work, you can go back to the requirement document and say, hey, this is what was documented. If there was something else that was expected, it should have been documented in the user requirements. Okay, so what have we accomplished so far? We talked about what static testing is. We talked about what static testing is. We talked about the different review processes, different products that can be tested using the static testing. Okay, any kind of work product. We looked at all these work products. So that could be a user requirement specification done by the business analyst that could be presented. You could have a design document, code review, test strategy, test cases, test plans. There could be an architecture review. All of these are different meetings initiated by different owners with a different set of participants. The ultimate goal of static testing is to make sure that any defects, inconsistencies, discrepancies are addressed early on in the process, so that there is a saving of time and effort, and that helps us to meet our requirements. Usually these review are going to be meetings. Either they'll be in-person meetings or online meetings. The work product will be presented by the owner who created that. And then the goal would be for anyone that is attending the meeting to be able to contribute in a positive manner. The intention of these reviews is not to find fault with the user, the presenter, but it is to make sure that we are addressing any discrepancy in the work product they have created. It is not an attack on the person's skill set or product knowledge. It is mostly geared towards the accuracy of the work product they've created. And project team is like, it's a teamwork. Everyone has the responsibility to contribute and make sure that the project succeeds. So the intention should be to make sure that they are helping the owner create a work product that is complete and robust. So here you can see the business analyst can have a user requirement document, and then who are all the participants for the requirement meeting. When you have a design review, who could be the participants. When you have the development team, who could be the participants. When you have a tester presenting, who could be the participants. So even if the developer's code review is very technical in nature, you can still, as a QA, look for boundary conditions if they are met, data flow and control flow, if that makes sense. So I'm just reviewing everything. And then here what we did was about, we did a work product review, specifically a user requirement, and then we thought about all the different things that could go wrong or that are like all the different gray areas, ambiguity. There cannot be any ambiguity in a requirement document. You have to try to eliminate all the ambiguity. Okay, it has to be really clear. The developer and the tester should know exactly what they are looking for. You can't assume any of this information. It has to be really clear. The reason the user requirement is one of the most important documents, because that is going to be the basis for a developer to develop their code and design, and that is going to be the basis for the tester to identify if the products meet the requirement of the business. So this is going to be like the most important document that the tester and the developer follow. So any discrepancy, ambiguity, clarification that is required has to be immediately pointed out, so that this requirement document can be made into a more robust document. So this ambiguous document versus how the document should be, I'll show that right now.